Every comic book fan has wondered what it would be like to have actual superpowers. Our favorite heroes can fly, sling webs, control the weather. These are powers that more than come in handy when the day needs saving. But then there are those superpowers that sound less impressive, like having a lot of extra skin, or ripping your own arm off. Not exactly your first choice for fighting crime. And yet, these not-so-helpful superpowers have appeared time and time again in actual comics. Some of them have even made it onto the big screen. Here are 10 completely useless superhero powers. The ability to eat anything. In the 1960s, DC Comics introduced the world to Tenzil Kim, the mysterious alien boy with the ability to eat matter, also known as Matter Eater Lad. His alien biology gave him the ability to eat everything from ray guns to concrete to chain-link fences. He belonged to the Legion of Superheroes, and he even appeared on the Legion of Superheroes animated TV show back in 2006. But it's not fair to say that he's completely useless. He did once save the universe by eating the Doomsday device, the Miracle Machine, in Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes, number 251, but it gave him such bad indigestion that he went insane for several years. The power to teleport between adjacent rooms. You may have heard of the Avengers, but not as many people are familiar with the Great Lakes Avengers. Not every superhero team can live in New York. After all, the Great Lakes Avengers are based out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Doorman is a founding member. Doorman's power is just what it sounds like. He has the same ability as a door. Well, he can teleport himself and his teammates, but only into adjacent rooms. He eventually got some flying skis to give him a little more room to work with, but still, he's a man with the same powers as a door. The ability to bounce. Bouncing Boy is a boy who bounces. That's it. That's his whole superpower. He was just an ordinary kid who drank a super plastic formula thinking it was soda, and it gave him the power of inflating into a giant ball and bouncing. Bouncing Boy was a member of the Legion of Superheroes, both in the comics and the animated show. His bouncing prowess eventually won over another Legion member, Duplicate Damsel, and he married her before retiring from active bouncing duty. His real name, Charles Foster Tane, is a reference to Charles Foster Kane from the film Citizen Kane. But what Citizen Kane has to do with bouncing is anybody's guess. The power to turn disco music into light. This one might be useless, but is surprisingly specific. Dazzler was a mutant character created in 1980 as a tie-in between Casablanca Records and Marvel Comics, but the cross-promotional idea was dropped pretty quickly, leaving Marvel stuck with a superhero whose only power was the ability to turn disco music into colorful lights. Since her introduction in Uncanny X-Men number 130, Dazzler's powers have been slightly rewritten, so she can now turn any kind of music into light, or even lasers, but her original powers were limited to disco light shows. Not great for fighting crime, but pretty solid for hitting retro night at the club. Ability to change the color of objects. DC's Legion of Superheroes may have welcomed Bouncing Boy and Matter Eater Lad, but they drew the line at Color Kid. He was relegated to the Legion of Substitute Superheroes because his ability to change the color of various objects was deemed completely useless. Color Kid's superhero career was mostly just about trying to prove that being able to change the color of various objects wasn't utterly useless. He was able to change some green kryptonite into blue kryptonite for Superman once, but Color Kid never quite made it in the big leagues. There's just not a need for a superhero redecorating. Detachable limbs. The ability to detach your own limbs doesn't exactly sound like the most effective weapon against supervillains, but there have been not one, but two superheroes whose only power is the ability to separate their limbs from their bodies. Back in the 60s, one of the many superheroes named Captain Marvel had the ability to disassemble and then reassemble his body parts by yelling, "Split!" His arms, legs, hands, and even head were capable of flying around on their own, and not much else. Even less impressive was Arm Fall Off Boy, whose only power was the ability to pull off his own arms and hit people with them. As far as superpowers go, that has got to rank slightly below a normal person with 2 arms and a large club. Perfect hindsight. Pretty much everyone already has the power of hindsight. It doesn't take a superhero to look back at all the times they've screwed up and imagine how things could have played out differently. But that didn't stop Carlton LaForge from putting together a costume and calling himself Hindsight Lad. His so-called power was so extremely useless that he had to blackmail the New Warriors to get him on the team, and he was then kicked off the team during Marvel's Civil War arc when he revealed the New Warriors' secret identities online. We can only assume that he now sees how that situation could have gone better. Excess skin. stretchiness, and super flexibility are surprisingly popular superpowers. Mr. Fantastic of the Fantastic Four has put his super stretch abilities to work, saving the world more than once. And DC's Plastic Man does a pretty solid job, but Skin of the X-Men is a little different. He can stretch his skin, but only his skin, not his bones or muscles. His mutant powers gave him an extra 4 to 6 feet of skin, and that's it. He has excess skin, and unless he concentrates hard on keeping himself together, his skin becomes loose and shifts around, making it occasionally hard for Skin to find his own face. The ability to turn Nazis into doves. Captain America is not the only ultra-patriotic hero to come out of World War II. Quality Comics, later purchased by DC, tried out their own American-themed heroine with Miss America, a plucky young reporter who got her powers from looking at the Statue of Liberty. Things were simpler in comics back then. Her main power was the ability to fight evil by turning Nazis into doves. Symbolic, sure, and maybe not completely useless, but her power was a little too specific and dull for most comic book readers. DC later reinvented the character so that she controlled molecules, giving her the power to transform anyone into anything. They did not, however, explain why she only chose to use these reality-altering powers to turn Nazis into doves. Super kissing, super baking, and super ventriloquism. When it comes to classic superpowers, you just can't beat Superman. He's super strong, he can fly, and he looks pretty good in spandex and a cape. But Superman also has the world's largest collection of entirely useless superpowers. At various times, he's had the ability of super kissing, which apparently erases memories, super hunches, super baking, super ventriloquism, and the ability to peel the S emblem off his chest and throw it at people. Now, of course, most of these powers are used once when the story calls for it, and then never ever again. But still, Superman has every other hero beat for sheer number of useless abilities. He may be the world's most well-known superhero, but he could probably fight crime just fine without super kissing. So, there you have it. Even the world's greatest heroes can have the world's most useless powers. Let us know about your favorite useless superpower in our comments. And don't forget to subscribe.